Chaplain Dillard initiates creating and posting these videos. Their contents and YouTube's linked videos do not necessarily reflect specific beliefs, practices, requirements, or endorsements of the Department of Defense, its subordinate organizations, or other groups with which Chaplain Dillard is affiliated.
Welcome back. This is the last in the series on personality types, and this particular video is really only for those groups who are inviting me over to do some training on site with them. I'm going to give an introduction to some practical exercises that we'll do there face-to-face, and the primary purpose of this video is to save training time face-to-face so this can be done online and enable more relationship time once we're there. One of the first things we need to say before we get into the practical exercises is that 2 of your people in your group have been given some hypothetical vignettes that will impact their personality type and the way that they live that out. For example, one of them has been told something like, you just inherited $10,000 a few months ago from one of your relatives, which was awesome, but surprisingly it has caused some family conflicts about how that money is going to be spent and where it came from and where it should go, etc., etc. Now that specific vignette is just an example. That's not one that's been given to you, and it's not part of your responsibility to find out what the vignette is. But I just want you to know, not everything is about personality type. There are exigent circumstances that either intensify or inhibit our personality type, and that's one example. So that's going to affect them throughout the day. One of the first games that we're going to play is called Favorites, and each of you will be asked to name your favorite color and 2 one-word descriptors as to why that is your favorite color. For example, mine is green because I think it is lively and calming at the same time, like grass is green, and so for me it symbolizes life and calming. And your favorite animal and 2 one-word descriptors for why that is. And mine is dogs because they are cuddly and loyal. Now I'll explain how that goes to personality type when we get there, but keep that in mind. That's one of the icebreakers that we'll open up with. The next thing that we're going to do is to sculpt your team 3-dimensionally in a room, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. If we are meeting in a conference room or dining room or anything else, we are going to picture the J's toward the front of the room as if we are moving toward decision, and the P's toward the back of the room because they tend to hang back and want more information. We're going to picture the T's to the right because T's typically want to be right in terms of logical, the right way to do things, and F's are often concerned with who is left out, meaning people who are left out of the consideration. So we're going to picture them left and the T's right. Now, a completely balanced person, which is almost nobody, is going to be dead center. The more you are a J, if you're 100% J, you need to be against that front wall. If you're 100% P, you need to be against the back wall. Now, if there are not walls, we'll put some blue painter's tape down that won't bother the carpet or floor or anything else, and we'll create some walls. If we have a conference table in the middle of the room or dining room tables, we'll work around it. But generally speaking, this is center. So if you're 50% J, you're halfway from center to the front wall, 50% P, halfway back. If you're 100% F, you're all the way on the left wall. So you get the idea, right? If you're 10% T, you might be a little bit right of center. Now, how are we going to picture the S and the N and the E and the I? If you are an S, I want you to, if you're a strong S, I want you to put one hand to your ear, kind of widen your eyes and stick your hand out to show that you use your 5 senses, okay? You can do that to the degree that you are an S. So if you're a little bit of an S, you might just kind of, tilt your head. If you're a strong S, bulge your eyes and put your hand way out there to indicate that you're a very, very strong preference for sensory input. If you're an N, you need to do just the opposite. A strong N, very, very strong, would turn away from everybody, kind of tuck their hands in, drop their head, because they're really focused more inwardly on their own tuition. And the degree to which you're an N will depend on how much you want to be inward. So you might just simply drop your head, or maybe just kind of hold your hands. I'll leave that up to you, some individual expression. So this is a really strong S. This is a really strong N. If you are an E, you're going to, if you're a very strong E, stand up and put one hand in the air. So a strong E and an S would look something like this, okay? If you were kind of middle E, just maybe 10% or something, midway for you is going to be in a seated position. If you're a strong I want you either seated on the floor or laying on the floor. If you're 100% I, you need to be prone, laid out on the floor. Ladies, if that's uncomfortable to you, we'll work something out. So we are going to three-dimensionally picture people in the room, front wall J's, back wall P's, to the degree that you're a J or P, left side F's, right side T's, very, very extroverted, a little extroverted, kind of midway, be seated, very much an I, lower to the ground, less prominent, and the N, if you're very much an N, or if you're very much an S. Okay, you got that? You can see why I need to prepare this a little bit in the room. Now, it's very important that you do not share your personality type with anybody else in the team, because the first part of our exercise is not sculpting yourself. I may have erroneously stated that first. We're not going to sculpt ourselves. The rest of the team is going to sculpt us one at a time where they think we are. So your teammates are going to position you. Let's say they position me. I'll go ahead and tell you that I'm kind of, I would be kind of right here. Very strong T, not as strong a P, and I'll be a little lower than seated for my introversion, and I might have my head down a little bit and my hands together, but my eyes will be open because I'm an N, but not a terribly strong N. So that's where I would be. You sculpt me wherever you think I would be if you didn't know that. And we will sculpt, the entire team will sculpt every individual in the room. And you can, if you need to leave your place and help sculpt somebody else, as long as you go back to wherever somebody has sculpted you, where the team has sculpted you. Then, after everybody has been sculpted on the team, I'm going to take a picture of that. This is what the team thinks they are, or who they think their team members are. And then after I take that picture, to remind ourselves of where we were, each individual will move to where you actually are. You will self-sculpt, and we'll take another picture of that. Okay, that's our second exercise, second and third exercise. After we're in those sculpted positions, at least 4 people who were significantly different than the way they were initially sculpted are going to have the opportunity to answer at least one of these questions. What might your team see in you that led them to sculpt you in that way? How does it impact you to work outside your preference every day? What are some of your best practices to succeed outside your comfort zone as far as your personality type goes? How is your personality type practically helpful to others at work? That is your actual personality type. And when have others confirmed specific ways that you were helpful to them? Now, we're only going to do that with about 4 people for time's sake, but I want you to think through some of those questions before we meet. And at least 4 of you who were sculpted significantly differently than your actual type will be asked to answer at least one of those questions. You can answer more if you'd like, based on time. Our next exercise is going to be another game. I'm going to bring a very lightweight beach ball, and I'm going to interject that into the team. You're going to play it from where you are, from your sculpted positions. I'll give you the rest of that exercise on site, and you'll understand why I'm not giving it to you here, but be prepared. We're going to toss a beach ball around the room a little bit. The next exercise is called For What It's Worth. And I'm going to bring this training tool that I developed. It's a communication tool. And you can see that there's a tennis ball in the middle. My dog's got a hold of this one, so it's not as yellow as it ought to be, or green, or whatever. And you're going to fill out, before you get there, an inventory on at least 6 members of a group to which you belong. Could be your coworkers, it could be your family, it could be some close friends, anybody at all you want to name, and you can freeze the video and look at some of these questions. And I want you to give a tick mark to each person who has one of these traits and total them up at the bottom. Go ahead and freeze that if you'd like, and actually fill that out before you get there, or I'll bring copies. It'll save us some time if you'll do this in advance. When you total it up, if you if one of the members scored very high numbers, they're going to get a stack of pretty weighty coins here. And you may have noticed that the title of the game is For What It's Worth. You may have heard some of the phrases, penny for your thoughts, or here's my 2 cents. Well, our cents that we will put onto the board anytime we want to talk, if it's a stack of heavy coins, our 2 cents is going to weigh a good bit and it's going to tilt it in our favor. If somebody scored very low, they're going to get some very, very tiny coins on here. And if we ask penny for your thoughts, when they put a penny on there compared to our 2 cents, you can see where this is going. Now, I want to encourage you in this. We are not going to actually play this game. It can be very emotionally powerful, and I don't want to bring some things that are not appropriate for this type of training. But we do need to see an example of how it would go, and I'm going to play that out for you. Again, you can do it on anybody. You can do it with your family members. You can do it on some coworkers. You can do it with some friends in terms of filling out that inventory. But you need to fill it out, total it up, and then you'll see my example. And we're going to see how some dynamics that have nothing to do with personality very much influence personality, either to intensify it or to inhibit it. And this is a good visual example. Next, we're going to do an exercise called Great Leadership, and we are going to divvy up our group into 4 quadrants. So if you are a FJ, you're going to be over here in this top left quadrant in the room. You're going to move to that room. If you are a TJ, you'll be in the top right quadrant. If you're an FP down here, if you're a TP down here, I want you to, in about 3 minutes, I want your group to discuss among themselves the 7 characteristics that you most value in leadership. Only in 3 minutes. Put them in order, your top 7 in order. After you do that, I want you to pick only one you're going to focus on in your top 4, and I want you to present to the group how you would respond as a leader to the Gatlinburg fires. You can choose to be to play the mayor. You can choose to play a spouse, a business owner, a tourist, anybody at all. But I want you to do it based on how your quadrant values leadership, because all of us are leaders in different ways. If you're a parent, you're a leader of your child. All of you, regardless of your position, your organization, have some leadership responsibilities simply to influence people to follow you in a good direction. And that may be liaising to another organization. It may be that you have some official supervision over somebody, or that you simply need to win somebody over to a recommendation that you have. That is still a form of leading someone to follow you in a particular direction. Then we'll talk about how the different quadrants have different perspectives on leadership and how we need all of those perspectives. Lastly, we're going to do an AAR, an after action review. I want you to return to your actual sculpted positions, and we're going to review the goals of the training, which I'll go over with you again when we're there. We're going to do at least 3 ups, 3 things to maintain that made the training effective, and 3 improvements. And I want you to use any of the insights that you learned about personality types in terms of how you interact with each other, and also the visual prompts of looking at each other's personality type to guide your discussion and participation and hearing and drawing each other out. And then the very last thing is I will reveal who has the fictitious vignettes that have been impacting them, and again, how that impacts personality type. Looking forward to working with you. Hope this has made some sense. I think you can see why it's important that you do this preparation. Okay, in summary, if you've already invited me over to speak to your group and facilitate some training, it's imperative that you go on that link that I've already emailed to you, take the personality test. It's not the Myers-Briggs, but it's very, very similar, and it will give you a quantitative measure of your personality type. Second thing, don't share that with anybody because that will take away the power of one of our very first exercises where the team is going to sculpt its own members of where we think we are. Thirdly, make sure you fill out that inventory on up to 6 members of any of your groups. Could be your family, could be your work team, could be some friends, anybody at all. We're not going to share that. That's just for you to have some personal insights on that exercise for what it's worth and the weight of our words. And lastly, I just want to say that I'm looking forward to working with you, and I will see you soon.
At the release date of this video, I am stationed with Research Development and Engineering Command, RDECOM, at Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Because the majority of our personnel are in this area, I spend most of my time here. I do, however, travel to our distant units based on command priorities and budget. I place these videos on YouTube for broad visibility to Army personnel and their families, but I hope the videos will be helpful to others too. If you are assigned to RDECOM and want to request specific topics by video, training on site or by VTC, or confidential counseling on site or by secure webcam, you can contact me at jeffrey.d.dillard.mil@mail.mil.